Stand by. Is this thing on?
Yes, Dan.
Oh, hello.
You're listening to Old News with Dan and Carrie.
This just in.
Breaking news to report.
We are live.
Old newscasters
Can we just say former?
Sure. Former newscasters reunite behind the mic after more than 20 years.
Old news is good news.
Stay tuned.
Count us down, Jamie.
Coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Old News with Dan and Carrie. And of course, another guy who is with us today. Who is that guy?
Well, today's guest has experience in many areas of TV and radio. Dan and I met Jamie Glinberg when he became the one-person band, a role that's currently known as an MSJ or MMJ, as we've learned, who did stories and live shots all by himself for our morning news show, 27 First News, in the late 1990s. Jamie went on to work for ESPN Radio and ESPN.com as a sports marketing consultant.
So
Today,
impressive.
Jamie is a sports marketing specialist for the Spox. Take two. Today, Jamie is a sports marketing specialist for the Fox affiliate in Milwaukee. Jamie Glinberg, welcome to Old News.
Carrie and Dan, what an absolute thrill this is. Thank you very much. Just
We're
seeing you guys
delighted
brings
to
back
see
so
you.
many memories.
Oh my
Jamie, I've
God.
had the delight of getting to see you every now and then over the last 20 some years, but not enough, honestly. I think the last time was we had a burger somewhere in Milwaukee, but we should really get together more often.
Didn't we meet halfway between Milwaukee at the pine tree and somewhere in between?
The
Didn't we have
pine
lunch?
cone. We went to the pine cone
Yes,
once
that's what
too.
it was.
Is that the one that rotates, or is that something else?
No, it's a
No.
truck
I'm
stop. It's
thinking
a
of?
truck stop like near Johnson Creek.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
I think the one that rotates was the gobbler, Carrie. in
the
that one.
gobbler. That's
Yeah.
it. That's a side
But we
note.
digress as usual.
For you, that's what we do.
Jamie, what you been up to?
Well, so I was with you guys from 97 to 99. So that was just a couple, 3 or 4 years ago.
Just a little while ago.
Just
Yeah.
a little bit. So I'm from Milwaukee, as you guys know, from Whitefish Bay. So moved back to Milwaukee in late 99. And then that's when I got in the TV sales. So with you guys, I was on the air. Prior to that in Minneapolis, I was like a production assistant, did associate producer for a couple stations in Minneapolis. But once I got back to Milwaukee, I started doing the sales job. Because in all the stations I was at, one thing I always noticed was the sales guys that drove the nice cars. And they're out golfing on Friday afternoons. And I thought, how do I get that gig?
Yeah, you've never been a dummy, have you?
Well, depends who you ask.
Funny you say that, Jamie, because the other day I was looking at some old videotape from back in the day. I think it was the last show I did, and we did like the Survivor episode. And anyway, everybody's like walking out to their cars and talking like we did like these little sketches, so to speak. And I'm walking out to my car, and it was like 2001, and it was like my car was a 1988 like Oldsmobile or something like that in the news business, but all the other cars were BMWs around there.
So-
You're like, one of these things is not like the
Something
other.
wrong here.
Truth be told, but don't tell anyone this. When I moved back to Milwaukee, I was trying to get back on the air. So I interviewed at a bunch of stations here in Milwaukee, Channel 4, TMJ, actually the Fox affiliate, WITI, and CBS 58, WDJT. So I interviewed to be on the air, but no one had a job available. So CBS 58 said, well, we have the sales job, and I thought, all right, well, if I take the job, then I have a job in the station and I'll kind of figure it out and work my way up to the newsroom. Well, I started doing that, and 5 years later, I became a sales manager there, and then I never looked back. So I got pretty good at it pretty quickly, and I thought maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, from 2000 to 05 was CBS 58 in Milwaukee, and then 15 years at ESPN Radio, and now the last almost 3 years been at the Fox affiliate WITI here in Milwaukee. So
Tell us about ESPN Radio.
So that was, even though it's ESPN, the big 4 letters, and it's huge, it was actually started in the Madison area by a guy named Craig Karmazin. Company's called Good Karma Brands.
Yeah.
And he started out of Madison, and then in 2005, he branched off into Milwaukee, and I got to know him, and I kind of helped launch ESPN Radio. So it was very small at the time, even though it was ESPN, we had some of the national programming, but we were selling, spots and radio spots, just like we used to call them dollar a holler, just really cheap spots. But now that company has grown exponentially. And it's in New York and LA and Chicago and all over the country. But I was with them for 15 and a half years until COVID, which changed the sports business, obviously.
Yeah. No, I remember you did a little bit. I mean, every now and then I can remember listening to some of the shows on Good Karma and ESPN, and every now and then you would pop up. You would pop up and be like, hey, that's Jamie. and that was, tell us kind of the model of, sports radio, because a lot of times, from what I understand, a lot of the on-air talent are also out doing some sales as well. Is that true?
That is true, especially in the model of Good Karma Brands. I was not a host or anything like that, but all the different local shows, whether it be like Jason Wilde and Mark Tauscher had a show, which is still on the air, Wilde and Tauscher. And if you don't remember the name, Dan Needles and Drew Olson, they had a show together. And I got to know these guys, and they give me character names, and I became this Ari Gold character, which goes back from an old TV show on HBO called Entourage.
Yep.
So that became my moniker, and once in a while they just have me on and just pop on and things like that. So I didn't have a weekly segment or anything like that, but if I was in the area, they said, Ari, sit down, and they just started chatting with me. So,
That's hilarious.
I never met a camera or a microphone I didn't like, so I was always
Wilde and Tausch is still a daily listen for me. So yeah,
good friends. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had some legendary days back at WKOW, and just so many laughs and so many crazy things that went on. And you were always very good at creating opportunities for yourself. For example, the GMA, you somehow talked our news director into sending you to Good Morning America. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Me and Steve Rohr, somehow we convinced the general manager at the time to send us out there, and we did to do a few stories. And I remember the stories we did. We did a story on Seinfeld, because Seinfeld was on our air at the time, and we actually interviewed the real soup Nazi. We found out where he was. I forgot the guy's name, but the little soup stand. We went and interviewed him, Rosie O'Donnell, because she was on our air at the time. And they also, Good Morning America was launching some new talent. Lisa McCree and someone. They were I forgot their names. Anyway, so we got to go to Good Morning America and do a whole interview with them and whatnot. And if you remember, they put me on the cover of TV Guide or TV Weekly at the Wisconsin State Journal for the week. It was, and it was another local story we did. So we went out there, did 3 stories, packaged them up, and they aired. So yes, I try to get very crafty and creative at times.
And by the way, we knew right then that you were destined for sales, Jamie.
That's right.
You could literally sell sand to a camel in the desert.
to an Eskimo or something like that.
There you go. Yeah. Whatever that idiom is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my, there was a few things that really stick out in those 2 years. That trip was one of them. Was me and Steve Rohr out there just in New York as kids trying to figure it out.
How about when there was a lottery ticket that was sold in our viewing market, and next thing you know, you're on the national news?
It was in Pell Lake, yes. Pell Lake, Wisconsin. I'll never forget that.
That's near where I grew up.
And they sent me down there, and it was someone who drove the satellite truck. It wasn't a one-man band. It was satellite, because they had to beam it around Good Morning America. And so I remember talking to the producer in my ear, and I didn't have a cameraman because I was my own person, and the satellite operator couldn't touch our equipment for some union rules. So and they're like, can you pan down? And I just went like, this or like this, like on my toes to frame it up. And I said, you're talking to the camera guy too. So that was a lot of fun.
I don't remember that. I must have been
really?
or something. No, I don't remember that.
Maybe that was the month of Dan when you were off during that whole December.
Who knows? And I mentioned this in a social media post with you, Jamie. I remember the epic World Dairy Expo live shots, and there seemed to be a number of animal live shots that you did where sometimes things would go terribly wrong with the animal, not you, but the animal just had minds of their own,
as they always do.
I I used to think I was the feature reporter, like the fun guy in the morning, but there was a lot of serious things as well. But, you know, the World Dairy Expo, I found some overalls, if you remember, and I was milking a cow. And, you know, the guy was teaching me how to milk the cow live on TV. And I remember, I think it was the circus in town, and I was on the back of an elephant. And when they tossed to me, the elephant on his back legs, if you remember that. I mean, I jumped out of an airplane, if you remember, and I did a story on jumping out of an airplane for television. And there was a camera guy, and I did, trying to do a quick lie or a stand-up as the camera, as you're flying down, you know, so that was kind of like my forte. But of course, the hard-hitting news, the house is on fire, and the tactical situation with the SWAT team, if you remember, around, you remember that one?
I do remember that one, yeah.
So I mean, I've definitely gravitated toward the fun element of it.
Yeah, you were good at that. Well, and just I've been reminiscing in preparation for this interview, and it is mind-boggling to think not only were you running your own camera, you were reporting, you were running the satellite truck, you were setting up your own live shot, all in the dark because we went on at 5 a.m. Like, how did you manage all of that?
Well, you know, you learn on the job, and driving the big, you know, live truck and setting up the mast and tuning it in, you know, and I would put a light
Which you were
stand.
always very careful about, right?
Right. And I would never drive with the mast up.
Never.
That's a big no-no.
No. But, you know, I put a light stand up, and then I would just, about my height, and I would focus on that. And then I would just kind of stand where the light stand and move this light stand, and I was right there. And then my director would be like, can you go up a little bit or down a little bit? And then I would have to like stand and hold on to it, and my knees are shaking, you know, but I was the guy.
How long can you hold a squat?
Right. I was the guy on the belt line, you know, when it's 20 below, telling people don't go outside, it's freezing cold. I'm like, well, why are you outside?
Yeah. Whatever you do, don't go outside.
Exactly.
I seem to remember a lot of conversations with you in the newsroom, Jamie, and maybe there'd be management involved, and you'd be trying to convince them that you wanted to do some story or do something. And typically you would come to a point where you would go, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got this covered. and then it would get covered. It would be taken care of.
That's true. That was a good invitation. Don't worry about it.
I wish I could do it as well as he does, but
yeah,
you had a knack for that.
Yeah.
Pretty much my entire life, it's like, I got it. I'll figure it out. And somehow, some way, I've figured it out. You know, I mean, I don't know how, but I just figured it out somehow.
Well, you're still here, so that's a good thing. Yeah. It hasn't gone terribly wrong. Then when you were in college, you went to Minnesota, right? University of Minnesota, way back, and you were an associate producer. And I understand everybody who is a broadcast news fan remembers a guy named Paul Majors at KARE 11 in Minneapolis, probably one of the most famous local TV news anchors of the 1980s and early 2000s. But you did some work for him, but it might not have been on air. You might have been a cabana boy for Paul Majors, I heard.
Wow, you did your homework, didn't you? You did some digging.
Is that
Please
true?
tell. Do tell.
So it was supposed to be like a bit, and it was on air. It was during a Vikings game that was on the NBC affiliate, and I worked for, and they were trying to do something kind of funny. And one of the sports reporters' name was Sid Hartman. He's not with us anymore. If you remember the name Sid Hartman.
I remember Sid Hartman.
So Sid Hartman and Paul Majors were in, I think it was Paul Majors' basement, and they had the TV up, and they were supposed to kind of do commentary on the game while the game was on KARE 11 at NBC. So what they had me do was to kind of be like the server and things like that. So I bring them drinks and things like that during this broadcast. Well, the next day in the paper, the whole idea got shot down, and they thought, why are they putting these, rich guys, Paul Majors, who makes all this money, $1 million a year, with his little cabana boy who's serving? Well, they didn't realize it was supposed to be tongue in cheek and funny.
Yeah.
So it didn't really go off too well. But that was it was not my idea, of course, but that was the plan, to have Paul and Sid commenting on the game.
It sounds funny to me right now, but
I know. I'm picturing the whole thing in my mind.
Yes.
And then another thing I was thinking about, I saw when I was, Googling you and looking at everything that came up, I saw an old photo of Jamie and I believe it came from Twitter/X. And then that got me thinking further back in the Wayback Machine. Wasn't there some story where you were like on Saved by the Bell or something like that?
That's right. I remember that video. Do you have that video, Jamie?
What was
I
that
do.
story?
I do. So, oh my gosh, if I knew all this stuff, this is embarrassing. After my freshman year of college, I quit school for a year and I ran out to LA on a whim with $500 in my pocket, and I figured it out. And I got an agent and I got a headshot, which is probably what you're talking about, a black and white headshot.
Oh, that's
And
probably what I saw.
For a year and a half, was an actor on a bunch of TV shows. And it was Head of the Class and Life Goes On and Charles in Charge and My Two Dads and Baywatch and Saved by the Bell and Murder, She Wrote and Quantum Leap, and all these shows that I did for a year and a half out in Los Angeles. I was 19 or 20 years old at the time. And I went out there with $500. This was before Facebook, before cell phones. I mean, I wasn't tweeting or checking in or letting people know where I'm at, you know, and
That's
so I did that.
incredible. And
So-
those were all of my favorite shows, pretty much, that rundown.
But
That's why you remember.
but honestly, that I went out there on a whim and with really no acting experience, but I just figured it out, you know.
As you always do. And then what brought you back after a year and a half?
Actually, I missed everything I had at Minneapolis. I missed my friends. I was in a fraternity. I was the social chairman of the fraternity. I missed a lot of all of that because being out in LA, I was a very small fish in an ocean, you know, as opposed to Minneapolis. I just kind of feel like my roots. So I came back to school, finished school and at Minnesota, and that's when I got in the media business because I always liked and gravitated toward that. And then that's my first TV job was at CBS affiliate WCCO, it was in '93, and then KARE, KARE, the NBC in '95, and then Madison in '97. So every 2 years. So then, so 30 some years later, I'm still doing media, but it all started with my idea about going out to LA.
Do you know any of the folks who you might have worked in any of those shows with still? Did you stay in touch with anybody? I mean, I know you were one of millions, but.
So I'll tell you, someone who used to live not far from me here in Milwaukee years ago, he's not with us anymore, was Dustin Diamond, who played Screech.
Yeah.
He lived in Port Washington, which was about, 15, 20 minutes north of where I live. And I ran into him at a Best Buy years ago. And we started chatting. And over the years, I've seen Mark Paul Gosselaar, who played Zach on Save the Bell. I ran to him somewhere and I introduced myself. But I was a 19-year-old kid, like Screech at the time, Dustin Diamond, he was 12 or 13. So he was a young kid.
Right.
Wow.
But to answer your question, no, at this point I don't. But as soon as I came back, I tried to keep in touch with people, but it was hard. We didn't have cell phones way back then.
Right. You went on with your life. Well, there's another pretty famous person you know from your childhood too, who just so happens to have been a pretty good baseball manager. And maybe not the most popular person in the city of Milwaukee right now, but a damn good baseball coach.
You're talking about Craig Counsell,
I am.
Yeah. So since the third grade, he's been one of my dearest best friends. And I was fortunate enough, I played Little League with him, but I think he was a little better than I was. But he went on to play minor league ball, but I used to go watch him play, the Colorado Sky Sox and the New Haven Ravens, which is minor league, before he got drafted from the Rockies. But I was at both of his World Series in 1997 with the Marlins, in 2001 with the Diamondbacks. I was at both World Series. I'm probably one person here in Milwaukee who's very happy for him. And now I'm a little bit of a Cubs fan, to be honest with you, because with the Cubs.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But his children, my children, are friends. We're very dear family friends.
He did a great job as the manager of the Brewers. And I was just sad to see him go because he was such a great coach for the team. Yeah. And, but, people have to take care of themselves in their life. Right. So that's the way I look at it, Jamie. Yeah. And I know he's your friend, so I'm not going to say anything bad about it.
No, that's okay. He turned it all, not for me, but
I'm kidding. We were talking about before, Jamie, we've talked about a lot of people how difficult TV news can be as a business, especially when you're working overnights like we did back in the day. But that kind of the challenge of it all, and the hurdles of it all, and the hardness of it all kind of brought us all together, I think. And I feel like that was a really good crew we had back then. Especially with you, and then we had a guy after you named Zach Spector. We had some really good crews to work with, and people that I joked about this before, but I'd be in the broadcast news foxhole with them any day.
I mean, honestly, and I said this to you guys earlier, I'm gonna say it again, those 2 years were by far the best job I ever had. And it was a family. And you know, when you tell people I had to be at work at 2 a.m, my shift was 2 to 10 in the morning, you know, and it was not easy, you know, especially if you wanted a social life and you went out at night and you get home at midnight. I'm like, well, I might as well just stay up because I have to be at work in 2 hours.
Get Perkins afterwards.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a family, you know, and there were a few people in the family you fight with, just like a family member, you know, here and there. But it was fantastic, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything. What I learned, you know, on every day was fantastic. I mean, I learned how to shoot and edit and drive a live truck and become a reporter and, you know, things like that. You know, I wasn't the best at it. I don't think I was going to be Peter Jennings or Tom Brokaw. You know, I'm using those names because it's old news, so you understand that.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're speaking our language,
See
Jamie.
what I did there?
Oh, I got you.
But I absolutely loved it. It was a fantastic opportunity. So, and I have to thank Sandy Kowal, because she's the one who hired me, because the news director, or the general news director, was left at that time.
Right. And Sandy was kind of the acting news director.
She saw the potential in you.
It was a good choice. You were great for our team. You made us better, really. I mean, you kind of actually, Jamie, and this is a compliment to you, and I think I probably cussed under my breath every now and then at you, but you pushed us to do stuff that was kind of out of our comfort zone, and I think that was good for the overall program all those years ago. Not that it matters that much anymore, but it does, because it made us who we were, and thanks for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I loved walking in and seeing you guys every morning. It was a lot of fun. You know, editing the whole show was not fun, you know, but it was
60 tapes.
Right, but it was fun.
Jamie was reminding me on the phone the other day that some of the funny little things what we did, like when Dan was doing cut-ins, and we're like, oh man, it looks really boring in the newsroom because you could see through the glass. So Jamie, why don't you remind Dan what some of the things we did to make it look busy back there?
Well, you know, our old set was kind of like the 80s CNN with the glass, and you can see the newsroom in the background.
Yep.
But I just remember, you know, Carrie and I would be carrying like a box of tapes, and I'd walk behind you and hand them to her, and she would take them and turn around and hand them back to me, and then I would go the same direction I just came from. So we just kind of, we would just do like funny things.
It's like being an extra in a TV show, like
and just keep walking back.
And cross and cross.
Dan, one of my favorite things we did, and I'm hoping you remember this, is if I know you right pretty well, you loved the Beatles.
I love the Beatles. Yes,
I know this.
Yeah.
And I used to tell you like lines of lyrics from songs for you to drop in the newscast.
We would drop them in the newscast. I totally forgot about that.
And so then what I would do is like you try to do it over a course of a week, and you know you look at the lyric and say, oh, I can drop that in, like help, I need someone help, you know, I can. And then I would edit them to the song of a Beatles song, like, you know.
I remember
Forgot
that.
about all that.
Gosh.
I don't think I had any assignments. I don't remember saying anything.
No.
But we took our jobs very seriously.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Wait,
Right.
that's not
I
true,
don't think
Carrie,
you
because
told
you
me.
did it too, and
I
so
did?
did
What'd I say?
Kevin Craig. Everyone I gave little pieces, and that was like just to make my job fun, you know. And
For
everyone had
your
like-
own entertainment, really.
right, and then I would edit it together to make a song.
we just talked to Kevin the other day, and that was a blast from the past as well. So
Mhm. Yeah.
he said to say hi to you.
Yeah, you know, if I can make a suggestion on old news,
Mhm.
it would be fun to get, you know, down the road 5 or 6 or 7, just have a little, like, you know, everyone together. That'd be kind of a fun little, you know,
It
Like
sure
the Brady
could.
Bunch reunion. We'll
Yes.
we'll do
look
it.
up and like look down and like see
There's a
everybody.
story.
I like that idea a lot.
Yes. I like it.
It's an idea. Yeah.
Future. See, you're still, oh, you're an idea man. You're an idea man, always thinking.
Weren't you involved in some of the Christmas tape shenanigans too, Jamie? Did you create some of the stories for the Christmas tapes?
I mean, I know I had to give stories that we did. I don't know, you mean like the
Okay.
holiday? Yeah, I remember they asked for things that we did.
Yeah.
One thing I did, and I remember at the time we did it, you didn't know how I did it. It was a Halloween, it was during Halloween, and I made myself disappear on the air.
Oh,
And
I remember
you
that.
saying, how did
I
you do
do
that?
too.
Like, you know,
Yeah. Did Steve Rohr roll a tape or something like that?
yeah, we
How did you?
rolled it and then just dissolved my live shot to nothing. We had to do it before it got light out. But at the time, you're like, well, how did you? All of a sudden, I disappeared. Yeah,
I didn't know the
Revealed
technical
25
side.
years later. Finally, we know.
right.
That's awesome.
All-
Well, the
all-
Christmas tapes used to be so fun. It was like, there's all these creative people who work in the newsroom and the engineers and the camera people and the on-air people, everybody kind of their chance to just do something fun. So, I mean, like as a team, we did stuff or we would just do random little shenanigans and then we'd air it at the Christmas party just for fun. But it was just amazing to see what people came up with.
Let me ask you, let me flip the tables for a second. Watching news now from when you guys deliver the news to seeing it now, is it much of the same? Is it very different? Like, what do you guys take? Like, when you watch the news now, what do you think?
Go ahead, Carrie.
I was gonna say, go ahead. Well, I think locally, it's very similar. It's the national news that's just changed enormously. And, as we've talked about on the show, getting your news from different silos and it's, so divided now nationally, but locally, I feel like it's fairly similar. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think the demands put on the people who work in the news business have seemed to have increased exponentially. Because we've talked about this with other folks too. When we were doing it, social media didn't really exist. The internet was just kind of
Young.
starting.
Yeah.
So we talked about this with John Stoffley. You'd throw something on the internet, you didn't care if it was like from 10 years ago because we didn't think anybody would really listen to it. But now, if you're a reporter, you had one of those jobs where you had to go out and do it all. You would have fit in very well right now because
Mm-hmm.
you were doing it all, and now they're all doing it like that. They're shooting
Right.
their own stuff. They're basically taking care of their own live shots through the technology they have now. And at the same time, by the way, they're tweeting and putting it on Instagram and maybe on Facebook. Who knows where else the things. So I just think the demands on them are pretty high. And I think even with local news, I still watch it quite often. I think the talent is still very good, and there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of good work. But it's, who knows who's getting their news at what time anymore or where.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I sell news. I sell the Fox affiliate here in Milwaukee. And just what it used to be and what it is, to your point, there's so many different ways to get the news. So the amount of people that are watching has gone down,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so many things that have gone up. I mean, you get it, on demand. I mean, our newscasts are on demand wherever you want them, whether it be just streaming or the Fox local app, things like that. So there's so many different streaming services when there used to be one, and you watch TV at this time, but now you can get it throughout the day. And by the time late news comes, it's old news. No
Mhm.
pun intended.
Right.
Yeah.
You can keep saying that, right? Yeah.
Please do. Please do.
Right.
Yeah, well, just even, I started following Fox, your station, in preparation for this interview, and now there it is on my feed, and now I'm seeing all the news that's happening every time I go to Facebook or Instagram, and it's just fascinating how that wheel keeps turning.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Mhm.
Just like how it's, to your point, it's changed, but it's so similar in so many
Mhm.
ways, but it's changed like technology wise, obviously.
Mhm.
I think the thing that TV news and to some extent local newspapers still have though is that localness. I mean,
Right.
unfortunately, we don't get enough local news because of the economic model, it seems like. So, we are all getting national news constantly on our phones. We get it, everywhere we go. But local TV stations and local newspapers still give you the news you need. I mean, they're not going to come and cover the city council meeting in Whitefish Bay
Right.
from ABC, but you guys are going to do that if there's something interesting or important happening. So that's the stuff I think I kind of lament about this. We don't know enough about anymore.
Yeah.
We need, I mean, city council can be dry as all get out, but you should be knowing what's going on at your city council or your village board or whatever, because that stuff impacts you on a daily basis.
Do you
So
guys miss doing the news? Do you miss delivering the news every day?
yes,
I miss having that family atmosphere of the whole crew coming together to create a product and feeling like we did a good job, hopefully, at the end. I mean, it always was a sense of accomplishment.
Agreed. Yes, I would
Mhm.
agree.
when you talk to people about this too, Jamie, and I'm sure you felt this when you got out of the news business, is you're kind of in the middle of everything, at least in your mind. You're at the pulse point, so to speak, and you know what's going on, and you're kind of tapped in, and that's a good place to be when you're somebody who likes current events and you're interested in that kind of stuff. And when you get out of that, you realize, boy, not everybody's paying attention to this as much as we thought they were. But you also kind of lose touch a little bit. So I think that's what you miss probably. And then like Carrie said, I think it's the teamwork. It's that, it's like being on a sports team or anything. You're working with other people, you're in the fight together. And when you have a great newscast, you feel good. When you don't, you get back and you play another day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the news team, in a station, you look back so many years and you look at all the people in all the different stations that they went to, and then how many stations everyone's touched from coming into WKOW and then growing. Like, you could do a map and say, here's where they all started and where all the different stations they've touched throughout the 20 some years. That'd be interesting.
Well, and like we joked about before with you, I mean, you're like 2 degrees of separation from a lot of different people because of that too. And a lot of different people in different, like Steve Rohr, he's a station manager. Yeah. You're sports marketing. We both are doing other things now, but yeah, so many different people. And, we all know people who work in very large markets and still some very small markets.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's fun.
I wouldn't have traded those 2 years for anything. It's one of my best jobs I ever had with it.
Jamie, do you miss being part of a newscast on a daily basis?
Yes, I do. I really enjoyed it. Made no money, but I didn't do it for the money. Otherwise, I don't think we would have been doing it.
Yeah.
But at the time where I was in my life, I thought it was fantastic, and I enjoyed it. And I kind of knew where my ceiling was. I don't think I was going to get that far. And I didn't want to be the guy going to Topeka, Kansas, or Cheyenne, Wyoming. As we know, you have to move out to move up. If it was an old expression in TV news. And I didn't want to bounce around to different markets. So I definitely miss what we had and what we did. Yes, 100%.
What did you like about being a reporter? Other than kind of the daily find, so to speak. Did you like the writing? Did you like the presenting? What was your favorite part about putting together a story?
I'll tell you the truth, and I didn't know this going into the job, but I learned that I really love the photography and the editing, which I never knew until I had the job. But doing that, to me, told sometimes more of the story than the actual words on the paper. Because television, as we know, is a visual medium,
Right.
and people are not always paying attention. They're watching it, especially nowadays, they're doing other things. But the way you could tell a story with video and editing, to me, I thought was really neat. Over the writing, but maybe that's because I wasn't a great writer. But I thought it was the other stuff like that was more fascinating.
What skills did you take from your reporting days into sales?
Well, I think I've always been a relatively decent communicator with people. I mean, I'm talking to clients all the time. And there are times when I'm talking about our news product and I take it back to when I was on TV, things like that, as I'm trying to sell our, Fox 6 local product here, and our stream and other, OTT, opportunities. But not just here it's not just our local news, but obviously all the sports on Fox. The Packers just finished up on, the NFC just finished up. So I sell a lot of, sports, which is
That turned out to be a good season for you, I imagine.
yes, the football and the Packers can be very lucrative. So yes,
Especially when they're winning.
yes, exactly.
You're like, curses, you had to lose that game.
They did pretty good for their first year with Jordan Love. I'll take it.
Yeah, same. Well, and you mentioned too, you're in the Milwaukee area again, and that's home for you. And we hear this from a lot of folks. Is that really where you wanted to kind of land and be for your life, where you raise your kids and stuff like that?
For me, yes. I mean, I grew up in Whitefish Bay. I live in Fox Point, which is just a village just adjacent to it, just north of it on the lake in the North Shore. Yep. And again, I moved back to Milwaukee to try to be a reporter, but then the sales opportunity presented itself to me, and I took it and found out I was pretty good at it. I just didn't know if I was actually going to be that good as a reporter and move around, the different stations around the country.
Right.
And you still have family in the Milwaukee area?
My father's still here. I have a sister in Madison and two sisters who live in the Phoenix area. But my two kids, and so they keep me busy.
Yeah, where are the kids? Are they still around there?
My son Ryan followed me at University of Minnesota. He's a sophomore.
Oh.
So he's 19, and my daughter, Lauren, she is 18, and she is a senior at Nicolay High School. So she'll be in fall. She's going off to school to spread her wings.
Does she know where she wants to go?
She would like to go and follow your footsteps at Madison, but we're waiting for all the replies. So that's what we're waiting for right now.
Ooh, yeah, my niece just opened her reply over the weekend, so I think they must be trickling in.
Yes, they're all starting. So she got to the University of Minnesota and Kansas and a few other schools, but we're still waiting for Madison.
Exciting times.
Jamie, in the last 20 years or so that you've been doing, sales and sports marketing and things like that, how has the way that broadcasting has changed the way you do your job?
Well, good question. Less and less people are watching TV, like just typical watching TV at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. That's changed. Back in the day, the 10 o'clock news was like the granddaddy. Well, now the morning news actually, when we were on, that's actually more valuable than the evening news these days.
Right.
Really?
I've heard that. Yeah.
Is the morning news. But so, less and less people are watching it because, as we talked about, they're getting it on demand. They're getting it from podcasts. They're getting it from all these different other areas. And so you have to still show a value of, why your message should, be within our station. I mean, in the Milwaukee market, Fox is probably the #1 station in the market, at any given time in the morning, we probably have 30-some thousand people that are watching our news, which is still a pretty good number,
Yeah.
But back in the day, that number was probably a lot higher.
For sure. So, and are you involved in kind of the online sales as well, or is that a whole different? You are.
Yeah. So, yes, to our streaming, I mean, you can watch Fox 6 through your app on the phone or on a tablet or, things like that.
Right.
Or a smart TV, obviously you can just download that. So, yes, they're all incorporated in some way.
Okay.
So,
When you're not working, Jamie, what are things you like to do?
well, if the sun's out and it's nice, I love to golf.
Oh, you're living the dream. You've got the nice car and you're golfing on Friday, right?
I golf as much as I can when it's nice.
You didn't
out.
answer the question.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Losing the connection here. I love to golf. I love to be active. I play in a paddleball league or pickleball league with some friends, weekly.
Which one, paddle or pickle or both?
Both. I played paddle last night.
I have a match tomorrow.
I played last night.
Oh
What the hell is paddleball?
It's platform tennis.
Yes.
They call it
okay.
paddle. So you're in a cage outside in the winter.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a winter sport from like November to April. It's a winter sport, and then pickle's more than,
Yeah, if you don't
Wow.
ski or are not skiing, it's a good other way to get outside. And then you're
Yes.
like, "What? We're crazy. Why are we out here in this?" But then you get hot, and just like skiing, you're shedding layers, and the ball gets heavier and heavier and heavier in the snow. Crazy.
You can play it off the walls similar to racquetball.
Racquetball.
Okay,
Yeah, you
got
play
it.
off the cage as
Yes.
long as it bounces in. It's
Yes.
a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
But okay, I digress. Go ahead. You're
No.
playing paddle, you're playing pickle.
So I run, fairly often, and but yeah, I'm just trying to stay busy,
Are you going to go down and see the Cubs play this year? A couple times?
Many times. I'll be there April 1st for opening day. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have a guy who lives 2 doors down from me, and every time the Cubs win, he puts out his W flag. So then I have to put out my Brewers flag whenever the Brewers win. So last year it was a good year for me, but now I'm a little bit
Well, how about
little
this?
bit concerned.
Sometime this season, me and you are going down to Wrigley. I get the tickets and we'll go watch a game.
I'm going to hold you to that because you're going to
Yeah.
laugh. I've never been to Wrigley Field.
I might
Yeah.
want to come too. Can I be invited?
Yes, and I'll
I'll
tell you
drive
something. I got the
I'll drive
tickets. The three of us will go down there.
Okay.
And yes, and it's being recorded right now, so I can't go back on my word.
Holding you to it.
Yes,
Make
I
the
would
magic
love
happen.
that. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
100%.
And is ITI still up on Brown Deer Road?
It is.
It is. Okay.
Yes, same spot where I am right now.
Oh, you're there right now. Well, wow. I used to work there way back when it was a CBS affiliate. I was a weekend assignment editor. That was my first job in TV. Jill Geisler was the news director. We had some really good people there. Boyd Hoopert was a reporter.
Yes.
Myra Sanchek, Charles Benson, Joyce Karbasiak, just a
And
lot
then
of really great-
Boyd went to Care 11. I worked with him at Care at NBC, so I worked with him when he went there.
And
Yep.
we were just talking about Boyd when we talked with Rena Sargentopoulos because she works with Boyd now too.
Yes.
What a small
Yeah.
world.
He was here. The next time he comes to Milwaukee, you're going to come to the Fox affiliate here on Brown Deer, and I'll give you a tour.
It was the CBS affiliate when I was there. And then
Yes.
it all switched.
And that changed because of the NFL. So when the NFL, when Rupert Murdoch took the NFL, the NFC away from CBS, because CBS used to have it before Fox even had football. That's how this all happened. But Rupert Murdoch, the chairman of Fox, took the NFL rights away from CBS to Fox. That's why all the Fox affiliates became, a big, huge deal because the NFL owns and runs everything.
Got
And
it.
then,
Interesting.
so that's how that happened. That's why that became a Fox affiliate.
You going out to the Super Bowl?
I am not.
Okay.
No interest.
Yeah.
No
Me
interest.
neither. I mean,
If the
I'll
Packers were
watch.
there. If
Yeah.
the Packers were there, yes, but no interest in them. I'll be happy to on my couch. I'm old now. I'm happy with it on my couch, with my
You
TV.
see it better from home.
Exactly.
And sadly, I feel the same way very often now. I'll be like, if the kids want to go, I'll be like, you just can go. I'll stay home. It's warm on my couch.
Yes.
So what is a typical day like for you, Jamie?
There are days I'm in the office all day,
Yeah.
on the phone, on, email, and then there's days I'm gone on client meetings or, taking, presentations or whatnot. Kind of the time of the year and whatnot, this time of the year, we're still working on annuals for the whole year, between December and January. Other times it's just, entering orders and putting together campaigns and proposals and sending them out and following up, a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of emails. But I'm taking clients out to lunches. I'm meeting for coffees and things like that. So
Face to face is still
yes.
important. Yeah, for sure.
I much prefer face-to-face than over Zoom. But, now we have the technology, people, it's just so much easier and people like,
Yep.
so.
Just think of how easy it would have made your job back in the day when you were out reporting. You just take a laptop and you zoom back your report.
Yeah,
Been
now
a
it's just
whole
amazing.
different world.
The live shots that TV stations do now, they wear something on their backpack.
Yeah.
They don't even have the truck anymore that they drive with the big mast. It's just a little backpack, and it sends a signal.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's a
It's
phone
crazy.
signal. It's not like a satellite that we used to or bounce off the tower.
Right.
It's
It's kind of like the Al Franken Saturday Night Live sketch, only he had a satellite dish on his
Yeah,
back.
exactly. So it's a little
That's
different these days.
Wild. Well, I have a question for you that I like to ask everybody. Are there bloopers that have stuck out in your mind after all this time from back in the day?
I don't know about, nothing stands out blooper wise. I mean, the milking the cow Well, there was one thing, and I'm not going to say it on this, but if you know what the things that are called that you're supposed to squeeze.
Yes.
Okay, so the gentleman that was the farmer that was telling me, he said you got to grab a hold of it, and he said it, and in my mind I'm just like pinching myself. Don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh. So I just was pinching myself, praying that I was not going to laugh. And he said you got to grab a hold of it all. But nothing. I know the errors that I made, the mistakes I made, and I was trying not to laugh and things like that. Always afraid that someone would have caught it, stuff like that. But the next day it was already forgotten.
Right.
Yeah.
Every day is fresh.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to wrap this up because I know you have a job to do too, but I have one last question for you. For me is there something you still want to do, either career-wise or just life-wise, something you're still thirsting to do or do with your life or career?
Career-wise, good question. Career-wise, I don't think so. I mean, I've always been in the news business for this is my 31st year. I still gravitate toward the newsroom, and I like to go in there and see what's going on. So I don't think I'll ever lose that. I don't think I'm going to follow in our friend Steve Rohr's and become a station manager.
Right.
But now and again, I like to sit in on meetings. And I was like, why is the sales guy in our meeting? Like, so I think once you get bitten by the news bug, it's always part of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to offer my ideas, story ideas and things like that. So I like to be, and if it comes on the air, I'm like, hey, that was, it was a good idea. So, so I still kind of dabble with that if there's a story idea, things like that. So I never like to give up on that.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
That is cool. Very nice. Well, Jamie Glinberg, it has been a pleasure to check in with you, and we appreciate your time and reminiscing with us and giving us the insights on what you're doing now. It sounds very cool.
Can I ask for one favor?
Yes.
Can we keep in touch?
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to go to that Cubs game this summer.
I know. Now we have a date. I'm coming in.
I'm not just saying that. Yes, we will look and we'll all go and we'll go to Wrigley Field. I got you.
And we'll post it on our new social media now that we finally got on Instagram. Good job, Dan. Now we can post stuff like that.
Yes.
And we're all empty nesters, so we have a little bit more time. And with your last one going off to college soon, all the time in the world.
All the time in the world.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you for having me. Love seeing you guys.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Old News with Dan and Carrie.
That's old news for now.
Join us next time.